They know nothing's going to happen to them. They know they're not going to be given after-school detention. They're not going to be suspended. They're not going to be expelled. Or like in the old day, they're not going to have the cheeks of their ass torn off for not doing right in class. So we have teachers that are handcuffed. We have principals that are handcuffed. And I will tell you, and I've said this many times before, we got to get to these kids before they get to me here at this jail. And so starting right now, it's a brand new day, folks. It is a brand new day where school discipline is going to be put back in place in Brevard Public Schools. We have a school board that stands behind this. We have our teachers union that stands behind it.
And your ass standing in front of that podium. Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey, he stood in front of his one of those jails down there and talked about the Brevard County schools. He has this whole, there's a new sheriff in town thing going on because he thinks he's in the Wild West. No, he's not threatening criminals, he's threatening children, students in these classes in this district that apparently been acting up, which I can understand. But then again, did you hear that part in the middle there? What was that about tearing off kids' asses there, Ivy? What are you talking about? Listen to that again.
They're not going to be suspended. They're not going to be expelled. Or like in the old day, they're not going to have the cheeks of their ass torn off for not doing right in class.
All parents out there no longer concerned about CRT being taught to our children, more about whether or not this guy, and maybe someone who looks a lot like him, tearing the skin off the asses of your children. Did you sign up for that? Is that what you're looking for? You're ranting and raving in the middle of these school board meetings? Congratulations. Here's some details of all this BS. Sheriff Ivey was joined by Florida State Attorney Phil Archer and School Board Chairman Matt Susan, who has ties to the far-right organization Moms for Liberty, of course. All three went on camera Monday in front of the Brevard County Jail in Sharps to announce plans to impose the most prolific school discipline policy this district has ever had, which Click Orlando reports as a discipline crackdown. Again, sounds like a jail already. He wasn't done though. This sheriff continued to go on his rant because he thinks his savage way of going after children, attacking them in classrooms because they're acting out in whatever ways he's talking about, if you'd have done this a little bit more, maybe a devastating school shooting in the same state wouldn't have happened. Yeah, he went there. Let's watch that.
We look at school discipline, there's two avenues that somebody that's being disruptive in class goes. One is handled administratively inside the school district. That's someone that's being disruptive in class, not following the policies and the procedures that's set forth by the schools. The other is criminal activity. If you want to see the distinction between how those two should be handled, you only need to look as far south as Parkland, because what they did down there was stop handling things on the criminal side and tried to keep everything on the admin side. There are criminal acts that take place. That's what we're going to be involved in.
We're going to be involved in criminal acts because we're the police. So keep your ass out of the schools. I talked about this yesterday, Jackson. Whenever we have these conversations about when people both agree on the problem, maybe kids are acting out in class, maybe teachers aren't able to get to all the curriculum because of the outrageous things that are going on in classrooms. No one disagrees that needs to change. The problem is, where do you find the root of that? Why does it happen? He thinks, well, we haven't been busting enough heads, slamming enough kids into walls and floors. We need to attack them more, and then maybe they'll start acting out right? That's his thought process. Let's jump down to SOT 4 though, you guys, because I want to show you guys what it is that happens with little children, because he's talking about maybe older folks that attack teachers and look at these things that are happening, because some of those events do happen. Nobody's denying that, at least I'm not denying that. But this type of corporal punishment, these attacks on children, they happen at a very, very young age. And as they go through the school system, do you think they're interested in learning? Do you think they're interested in listening to a teacher? Do you think they're interested in watching the damn police officer that attacked them since kindergarten walking around their school scowling at them? Does that feel like an educational environment to you? Let's look at a couple of examples of what they've done to little children from the beginning, as he's talking about before they show up in my prison. Watch this.
She was just not the little girl that we had before. She was no longer Kaya.
Do you want to tell me what happened?
I got handcuffed.
How did that feel?
Bad.
Yeah, we talk about our kids being criminalized, but then to have that actually happen to my family, like my son, like it hit home in a different way. All these kids, black and brown kids who are being handcuffed in elementary school.
Two young children, one little girl is 8 years old, arrested in the back of a police car for throwing a tantrum at school. For throwing a tantrum at school, not saying, hey, what's the problem? What is it that's happened? What's going on this morning? What is it's going on within your body and your brain and it's happening with you? Because these are children. But they should be arrested because now that'll teach them a lesson because they came into my class thinking they're gonna end up disrupting and then wanna go to jail. Another kid who got into a fight because he was being bullied and then he got handcuffed. Because that'll teach them, right? There's still people who still say, hey, if you're getting bullied, maybe you punch that bully in the nose. I have a feeling that same a-hole cop that's talking about wanting to incarcerate children, he probably tells people that too. As long as it's the right type of person to tell. There's one person that's smarter than Sheriff Ivey, I believe his name is. Her name is Lizette Ayala. She's a licensed social worker. And she talked in that same USA Today piece about what it is like these traumatic situations, these physical confrontations that people have, these grown ass adults have with little children and what it does to them. And then why once they get to junior high and high school, why they have no interest in talking to or being involved with anyone that's an authority figure at school, especially cops. Listen to this.
From ages 0 to 5, but even up to the ages of, in your 20s, our brain is still developing. And so when we experience trauma, those changes that happen with the chemicals in our brain, they can cause dysregulation of certain neurotransmitters and chemicals. And when it's dysregulated, that can cause big impacts on the way that people relate to others, the way that they feel around others, if they could trust people, if they're able to make healthy connections with others.
It sounds like if you pay attention to the problem or pay attention to what happens to children when you go for this route, you find yourself in the same cycle of children that want nothing to do with you and probably have behavioral issues because they just don't trust you. They've been traumatized, Jackson.
Well, and this just shows complete lack of any type of real thought process, no training, for them to use this approach. It's just like, just hit the hammer down harder. It's literally like drunk thinking, like just stammering in and like, I'll just whip his ass like my daddy used to do me. Like, it's literally that type of thinking. It's simple. It's just, well, I used to get beat. So, and again, this isn't even talking about like how people punish their children in their own homes. This is talking about at school, so this isn't really even diving into the conversation of should parents spank children? These are teachers in a public institution that should be geared towards helping to nurture people into the most productive citizens possible. Not just helping to train them on important skills, but also to create an environment that's emotionally sustaining and that allows us to develop friendships with people, allows us to meet just the general complications of life with guidance from people who care, not people who are like, just beat them, just whip them, because that's gonna spill over into everything. It just is gonna attract people who really are just looking to punish kids through school instead of actually guide them through life. So it's just, it's a very dumb approach that hopefully gets a lot more attention and shut down.
So as they've switched over many members of the school board and then invite the sheriff in to be the enforcer when their school district, they're gonna continue to wonder, why does this keep happening? And they'll blame it on the victims, those children that have to deal with these folks. There was another video, and I don't even wanna show it. That's why I didn't include this on this, of a high school freshman who got slammed on his head by a school cop because he was walking through the hallways when he shouldn't have been. Got slammed on his head, skull fractures, brain damage issues with him, because that'll help, right? So what's the end result? Now the kid's gonna be in class doing well, or is he gonna have lifelong issues after that attack on him? That's what we're dealing with. But we let the stupid people lead us. And when smart people talk, we go, elitist. All right, cool. Maybe those folks who voted them in after their children get attacked, then maybe they'll want to do something different and say, how did we get here? It must have been someone else and not the guy who said, I'm gonna attack your effing kids.